Hi, I'm Lori Spielman, First Selectman for the town of Ellington, and welcome. Today's guest, I have Miss Peg Bussey, who is head of the Friends of the Library, and you're president, right?
Correct.
So we have the library, we have the board of directors of the library, and then we have the Friends of the Library. We never really hear about the Friends. How come?
I think part of the reason is because a number of people consider the Friends and the library to be one and the same. One of the things I'm always find interesting is when I talk to people about the Friends of the Library and they say, oh yeah, I'm a member, and I kind of look a little quizzical because I know most of the members. And I say, oh, okay, and they'll pull out their library card and they'll show me and say, see, I'm a member of the Friends. We're not the same. The Friends is a totally different nonprofit leg of the library. We exist only to support the library, but we are an entirely separate organization. I'm lucky because I get to wear many, many hats relative to the library. I get to be a patron because my passion is libraries. I get to be a taxpayer because someone has to pay for them. I'm an elected member of the Library Board of Trustees, which you mentioned. And we're not responsible for the day-to-day operations of the library, but we're responsible for the direction of the library and making sure the budget gets sent appropriately. And we've got a strategic direction and stuff. And then we have the Friends. And like I said before, the Friends exists solely to support the library.
So how do you raise money?
We have a variety of ways. Historically, the Friends have always raised money through the sale of books. We used to have twice a year enormous book sales. We still raise most of our money from books, but we're very fortunate. We have an ongoing bookseller operation, which is a kind of a mini store of where we sell donated used books. We sell them very cheap, and we make quite a bit of money that way. We have added since COVID, because COVID really, really disrupted our operations, but we've added since COVID what we call our book fair tables. They're just tables that are in our library's reading room, and they're available whenever the library is open, and we keep it stocked with books from all ages, and people can take them by giving us a pure donation. There's a bucket there. So we raise quite a bit of money that way. Again, like I said, mostly since COVID. Our bookseller is in the basement of the library. We are open 3 times a week, 3 days a week. We are staffed with volunteers, and we look like a little bookstore. You know, we've got our adult fiction and our adult nonfiction. We have history, we have children's books. And we do that, again, via donations, book donations or DVDs, CDs. We also, even believe it or not, there's still a market for CDs, even with all of the streaming music and stuff out there. We actually still have a market for DVDs, too. And what we do is that we collect donations whenever the library is open. We have people who are dedicated to sorting those donations. We sort into, quite honestly, some that aren't usable by anyone. People have a hard time throwing out books. And so they have books that have been stored in parents' garages or barns or attics for years and years and years. And you can imagine what's the condition some of those are in. And so we understand people don't have the heart to throw them out themselves, but we'll take them, and we're very fortunate the town has provided us with a recycling dumpster so that we can keep them out of the regular trash and that they can go to a recycling facility and get dumped.
Well, you can't have a musty smelling book and everything else. That's just, forget it.
Right. We're also very fortunate as the smoking in population is going down. We don't get the books as many now that we used to get many.
That were yellow?
Yellow, and I could tell you probably what kind of cigarette they were smoking. You know what I mean? So, but that has definitely decreased.
Funny you forget about that.
I know, isn't it?
Even when you see somebody driving by with their windows up and they're smoking in a car, you're like, whoa, look at that.
I know, I know. I mean, to think, and I'm sure it was true for you too, I went to school in a time period where we had smoking lounges. So times have certainly changed.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, we get all these donations every week, and we have people who sort through them. Some of them get dumped, as I said. Some of them go into our bookseller for immediate possible sale. Some of them we do box up for our bigger sales. We still do have a large book sale at least once a year of where we cart up to the second floor of the library. Thank goodness we have an elevator. Probably about 5,000 or 6,000 books.
Wow.
Because believe it or not, we get probably 1,000 pieces a week to sort through. Now, granted, some of these are children's books that are the little tiny, tiny books, but it's amazing how many pieces we get to sort through. And so that's still how we make most of our money. We do try to organize some fundraisers. I know that you're familiar with that we have periodically. We try to do it annually. Again, COVID disrupted us. We were doing mini golf, which turned out to be our biggest single day fundraiser for most of our years. But that's primarily how we're raising money.
So I have to ask you, are you going to have a booth at Earth Day?
The library has a booth.
Yeah.
And so we'll support the library in their booth, at least this year. Because here's what our issue is too, Lori, in all honesty. I mean, I want to get to talking about what we're going to want to do in the bookseller. But one of our issues isn't all that different than most nonprofits in town. We've got a declining membership as people have multiple organizations where they can dedicate their time. So people are declining. We have an older membership. I mean, I'm going to be 70 next year, and I'm probably one of the youngest ones, if not the youngest one. Well, not quite the youngest, but fairly close to the youngest ones involved with the group. So we need to do something to bring more thoughts and people into our organization. So that's part of our issue, is that we're older. There's only so much we can physically do. And participating in things like Earth Day and that kind of stuff, many times you have to cart things. You can't just set up a table and say, come talk to us. You got to bring things. And what's our biggest commodity? Books.
Yeah.
And books are heavy.
So, just so everybody knows, we are having Earth Day.
Yes.
And it's the third Saturday in April. So we're looking forward to that. It'll be right after Easter, of course. And we've got a lot of vendors, a lot of great food vendors, also a lot of educational vendors that are going to be there. It's going to be a great time.
We've talked about it at the Library Board of Trustees meetings that the library will be participating.
Well, the library does a good job because they also have games and things like that. And they bring different things so people know that you could check out a whole game.
Yeah, one of the things that the Friends is very proud of that we have supported in the library, the Friends primarily does things above and beyond what the tax dollars pay for. So our biggest thing is we do all the summer reading programs. But in addition to that, when the library comes to us and says, hey, we have a new idea. We're not sure whether it's going to take off or not, but we'd like to try it. So one of the ones a few years ago was they came to us and said, we'd like to start bringing in some of those large lawn games. You know, the ones that you drop the things in and you try to get the circle, the colors in a row and that kind of stuff.
All I think of is jarts, but that's,
yeah,
no, you don't have that.
Yeah.
Well, they have an axe throwing that's rubber.
Yep. So like I said, they asked us if we would support them in buying those. There's a huge chess game and that kind of stuff. One of the ones that does go out a lot is so one where you toss the little beanbag.
Cornhole.
Yeah. We bought a couple of cornhole setups. And so that goes out a lot. In the summer in particular, family reunions and that sort of thing, they're coming in and taking those out. So that's one that we did. In addition to that, one of the ones that a lot of families take out, particularly in the summer, is we supported their adventure kits, which are kits that are designed for a particular topic. And you can take this and you can then go off with your family. There's a bird watching one, for example, of where you can then go off and observe nature in its finest and identify certain birds and feathers and that kind of stuff. So we try to support them in those things which might be a little bit different. It might seem strange to you and I, but years ago, long before my time in town, but years ago, one of the things the Friends supported on was they didn't know if a little thing called the internet was going to take off. So the Friends started by paying for the service to bring the internet Wi-Fi into the library.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. You and I look at it now and say, are you kidding me? But that's really what it was. And then obviously what happened with that is eventually it just became part of the regular library budget and they took it over.
Now, how about what I think is pretty cool is the custom pans. Did you do that?
Well, we did and we didn't. The custom pans are all donated. The cake pans you're talking about.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah, they're all donated. Originally, they were being donated to the Friends for sale in the bookseller. And we finally got kind of overrun with them and we thought, and we worked with the library, and we finally thought, maybe we shouldn't be trying to sell them because people, having used several of them, I used to bake for all of the nieces and nephews. It was Winnie the Pooh the one year and Tigger the next year and Barbie the year after. You only used them once, maybe twice.
All right. Well, now we got Easter coming up with all the Easter pans and everything else. I imagine they're going to be flying.
Correct. And so, like I said, none of those have been purchased. They were all donated, and they started the collection based upon.
And it's huge.
It is huge. It's huge. I know.
It's great.
It is.
I've never seen a library that had that.
Oh, I have seen one or two, but I think that that's exactly the point, is that these are things which most people wouldn't buy themselves because you don't use them often unless you're doing it professionally.
And it takes up space.
And it takes up space, yes. But they've got them all up there hanging very nicely.
Yeah, they're great, labeled and everything.
Exactly. So again, none of those have been purchased. They've all been donated. And we still get them occasionally donated to us, and we give them to the library to take care of.
Now, how about the hotspots?
The hotspots was something that I believe came from
A grant.
A grant, yeah. It was either a grant or I don't want to speak out of turn, but was it ARPA money?
It could be ARPA.
I don't remember. But the hotspots were those donated to the library or purchased by the library via a grant. From what I can gather, they're also being very well received, although not totally known about yet in town.
There's so many things that the Friends help and the library offers, but I know people don't know all the things that they offer. How can you find out?
Well, that's part of what I think we really have to do a better job of. One of the things that came up in the library's strategic plan was that we needed to have some better ideas for communication. And I know that the Board of Trustees is working with the library to say, how do we improve that? Social media. How do we look at all age groups who are patrons of the library to make sure we're reaching all of them appropriately. Some of them want to come into the library and be handed something and saying, this is what's going on. Others want to get a text message. Others want to see it in an email newsletter. Others want to whether it be even in a newspaper and stuff of where years ago in the JI, we used to put a lot of things. I realize the JI is not a local paper anymore, so that's harder. But there's a variety of ways, but the strategic plan does talk about the fact that we need to think better about our communication.
This is where it would be really great if people would get involved, younger people, maybe from the PTO or whatever, that really has an interest, and maybe you could take it to the next level.
Right, exactly. Because as I said before, I am the president of the Friends, but I've been the president for 11 years. I do believe in term limits. So it's time for some other group to step in and take everything to the next step. One of the things that we're doing right now that I hope to have done within the next 18 months or so, our bookseller, which is on the BR level of the library. You have to take the elevator down. BR meaning basement rear, because the rear door is open. Our bookseller hasn't been touched in a number of years. And it was opened, the best I can figure out by going through some of our documentation, it was opened somewhere around 1994. Somewhere about probably 10 years or so after it opened, the Friends repainted the walls and the floor with waterproofing kind of paint. But there is a water problem down there, as you're aware. And so one of the things that the Friends has undertaken is a special fundraising approach, I guess, or campaign to raise money to renovate the bookseller. We don't want to take money from our normal fundraising because we really do believe that should be used to support the library. So what we are doing is we have been out there soliciting funds. We have gotten some donated. We have collected so far about $9,000. What we need to do is we need to replace all of the bookcases that are down there that aren't metal. There are a certain number that are wood and that are particle board. And you can imagine after 15 years in a damper environment, shall we say, we run a dehumidifier, so the books we're selling and stuff aren't moldy or mildew, but in a damper environment, wood and particle board doesn't fare well. So we want to replace all of that. We would like to also address some of the lighting that's down there, some of the signage that's down there, and the walls and floors and stuff do need to be painted. Now, we've been working with Public Works, and like I said before, you're aware that there's a project in the town's budget. The Library Board of Trustees is stepping forward to help with that project, of where we will try to address some of the water issue that's down there in a more permanent fashion.
How can people help?
People can help by simply, well, I'm actually asking for two things. One, I'm asking for monetary donations if people are so inclined and are able to. And the second thing, I'm asking for people to join the Friends.
Great.
Join the Friends and take an active role. Like I said before, I truly do mean it when I say it's time for the next generation to figure out what they want from the Friends, which also probably goes hand in hand of what they want from their library. Libraries are different from when you and I were kids.
Well, I'm surprised the things that they do. You can get your passport renewed.
Right.
Well, who would ever think of that?
Right. Passports and notary services. They really, like I said, years and years ago.
They would never do that.
No, years and years ago, libraries, you went to the library to get a book. End of story. And now you can get so many services.
Get a cup of coffee?
You can get a cup of coffee. There's so many services that are offered. There are so many programs that are offered. I mean, what they're doing for the children's department is really amazing when you look at the number of programs they do have for kids of all ages. They're starting to more partner with other organizations in town. I know the Historical Society has always been a partner with them, but even they have started to present more programs in conjunction with the library. The library is starting to reach out to Senior Center and other organizations to say, hey, our roles are changing. The library really is no longer, like I said, a repository of books. It really is becoming a community center of sorts. What we've got to do is that we've got to tap into, particularly, you mentioned younger people before, that young adult, that what I'm going to call the age group of like 18 to 30. We've got to figure out how to get them actively involved with our library and what they want.
I don't know if it was last year before, they had some classes they asked what the young people wanted. Sewing.
Yes.
So who bought the sewing machines and everything? Did you?
Yes, the Friends purchased sewing machines to be used for classes. I believe there's 6 of them. Maybe there's a couple more. We did have a couple that were donated also, but we pay to also, us and the Library Board of Trustees pay them to make sure they're serviced appropriately and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, those things that... Cooking, same thing. We bought a cooking cart, I'll call it, that has like, a convection oven on it and that kind of stuff that could be used for a variety of classes but it doesn't take up much space and you can wheel it around to the rooms that you need it in. Yeah, absolutely.
But how great is that? It's right in town.
I know.
You don't have to go to South Windsor. You don't have to go to Evergreen or West Farms or anything else. You got it right here in Ellington.
I will tell you, Lori, the number of people who visit the bookseller and our library in general from other towns is actually quite high. We have a couple who come to the bookseller Every time they come in to see a movie, which is a couple of times a month usually, and they're from New Britain.
Wow, that's quite a ways.
It is, but they love our library and they love what we offer. And they happen to also truly love our bookseller. They buy something every time. Granted, our books are cheap, but they'll buy something every time. We have a couple of people who come in every Thursday to look through our DVDs and take quite a few of them at the time. And they're also not from in town.
Wow.
I mean, we really do reach far and wide. The library has a very good reputation.
Now, I asked you this the other day. You take puzzles also, right?
Yes, we do. We take puzzles. We sell a lot of puzzles, particularly in the winter, and particularly, people who are helping elderly parents and stuff, and it gives them something to do with them. But yes, we do. We take puzzles and we sell puzzles.
My father's turned into a puzzle snob. He will not do it again. I did that last year. How does he remember? He does 2 or 3 puzzles a week. And I don't know how he remembers all this stuff. Nope, I don't want that. Jeez. What happened to get what you have and be happy? Nope.
Yeah. We have some people who ask us to tell them when we get a whole bunch of puzzles in that are like 500-piece puzzles.
We just brought you a bunch.
Oh, we'll gladly take them.
Yeah,
Gladly
from
take
the puzzle
them.
snob.
I had a friend who's since passed, but she lived on the Cape, and she was also a puzzle snob. And she used to donate some beautiful puzzles to us. But same thing, did it once, and then it was over.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hey, so I got to tell you what's going on in town a little bit.
Wonderful.
So Arbor Park has been redone. The grass has been redone last year.
Yep.
We also have irrigation in it. So we also put brand new recycled trash cans, brand new benches, which all have been by a grant, and also fitness equipment, which went in late last year. And there's a great surface down for working out. And we just put 2 weeks ago a nice cover over it.
Oh, that's good.
Now, this allows people to come work out anytime you want, any time of day or whatever. Just stop in. It's easy parking, easy access, and it's great. Instructions are there. So the same thing is in back of the senior center if people want to go over there. Also, the senior center has it inside. And we also finished the carport, which is solar for the police department. And yesterday they were milling and reclaiming that, which they're grinding the asphalt in place, regrading it, and they're going to pave probably next week. We're doing some of Davis Avenue, a little bit on Ellington Avenue, and a little bit on the entry of the church, or the right next to the old package store going into the cemetery.
Yep.
The state of Connecticut is reclaiming and repaving Maple Street, which is in front of the senior center and the high school. So if you're going that way, you might want to try to go a different way, because I think traffic, and people are like, there's no school this week. How come they're not doing it? And I was like, well, they don't go on that.
Yeah.
But that's just a few things that are going on in town. We got a lot as usual, but tell me more about what the Friends do.
Well, like I said before, the Friends, our bylaws are very specific. We exist simply to support the library. Many Friends groups get an actual budget request from their library each year. We do not. We do it as we go. I am very proud of the fact that we have an excellent working relationship with our library. That's not true for a number of the Friends groups, which is kind of sad, because I belong to a regional group of Friends organizations that gets together 3-4 times a year. And when you hear some of the horror stories, it makes me very glad that I'm in Ellington, and very glad that we have the staff that we have at the library. As we're supporting the library, we also try to figure out and work with them to figure out how best to spend some of the money. As an example, we pay for museum passes, which allow families or individuals to go to some of our museums in the state at a discounted price. But what we do is we work with the library to figure out how often are things being used. because some of these passes or discount passes that we buy can cost us $400 or $500 for the year. So we've got to make sure that they're being used enough to make that return on investment. So we work with the library to make sure that that's happening. We just recently, probably being 6 months ago, bought all new furniture for the young adult section of the library. Because guess what? Kids don't want to sit in the furniture that adults sit in. So we've got bean bags and we've got colors and we've got tables and that kind of stuff set up for them. So we try to get involved in that way too.
Yeah, that's just great. And we really got to get the word out if younger people, young moms want to join up.
Yep.
You don't have to make every single meeting.
We actually don't have very many meetings. We really don't. What we need is more for people to join us to generate new ideas and new thoughts about how to do fundraising, new thoughts about how to expand our own operations and that sort of thing. That we need more ideas than we do total time from people, if you will.
Right. On all the other boards too, we need people.
Exactly. We're no different than all of the other boards in towns and most of the other nonprofits in town, in all honesty.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to have younger people with new ideas. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they get a little, they understand more how things work in town too.
Absolutely. And the more you feel part of something, the better we all are for it.
Yeah, that's great. Peg, I want to thank you so much. Peg Bussey, Friends of the Library. And this is the People's Show for the Town of Ellington. Thank you all for watching.